Parker, listen to me, listen to me. I'm gonna be sitting right next to him, okay? He's going to have no excuse for any sources. If he wants to say any talking point, I am going to Google it on his behalf, all right?
Okay, got you,
I
got
am
you.
literally, listen. I'm putting the phone next to him right now, bro. Please rebuke the name of MAGA from this household. For the love of God,
I
bro.
got
Please.
you. I got you. I got you. All
It's
right.
not. Don't freaking yell at him,
I'm not
okay?
I
gonna yell
won't.
at
I
Please.
you.
won't. I won't. Don't worry.
No, Parker, I'm
I'm
not
not
talking to
the.
you. You're
Oh, okay.
actually, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
There
So
you
I'm not
go.
gonna
so
yell at you.
Yeah.
I have the green light to yell at him.
No. You can't yell at him either, okay? Because then you're gonna instigate.
Yeah. Okay, I got
Don't
you. I
touch. You don't
got
have
you.
to touch the phone. The phone is
Okay.
right here.
Okay.
Yalla, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Do you hear me?
Yeah. What's up? So why did you vote for Donald Trump?
Okay, I vote for Donald Trump because Kamala killed my people, and she said that we are speaking. I'm Palestinian, by the way. So I am aware that Trump is not an angel, for the record. But the Democrats had to be taught a lesson, and that's why a lot of Muslims like myself voted for Trump. Number one. Number two, the economy is. I don't know if me and you, we can agree. The economy is in the shitter, with all due respect. And with Ukraine, we have to remember that this didn't start in 2022. This started in 2014 when the Ukrainian Azov battalion was killing Russians in eastern Ukraine. And this could be Googleable. This is not fake news. And that we pressured Russia to invade Ukraine in 2022. I'm not saying Ukraine doesn't have to be a country, but the deal has to be in such a way where Russia has their security guarantees and Ukraine has their security guarantees. So does the US, and that no country has to be used against Russia or vice versa. Here's my question to you, sir. If Mexico became part of a Russian Chinese alliance, would America allow Mexico to be in that alliance? No, we would destroy Mexico, burn it to the ground, and make sure Mexico does not become part of a Russian or Chinese alliance because it's a national security threat. So I don't want to hear basically, oh my God, Trump is, it's the Democrats' fault. I used to vote Democrat growing up, but the Democrats did not have a plan. For example, if it was Bernie versus Trump, I would have voted for Bernie Sanders. But because the Democrats are so incompetent, because they're idiots, I was forced to vote for Trump. They put me in the corner. Okay? Now, so let me ask you a question. If you were a
What,
Muslim,
can I respond to any of these
okay,
points?
okay, talk. My bad. I was just going on a rant. You could respond.
Yeah, no, I got you. Okay, so you asked a question about like Mexico being a part of like Russia or Chinese alliance. Like, would we like decide to like limit that? Well, this same sort of thing happened with Russia, right? In the context of their borders, right? In the early 2000s, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia joined NATO, right, on their borders. Please explain to me why that didn't provoke a war.
Okay, because Russia was not in a position to do anything, because this was in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope, it
And
was in the early 2000s.
2000s? Okay, fine, whatever. Russia was not in a position to do anything. However, Ukraine is a red line because Ukraine actually has Russians in it. A lot of Russian speaking people
Are you
in
saying
it.
there's no Russians in Latvia, Lithuania, and
There
Ukraine,
is,
and
there
okay,
is.
Estonia? Okay.
Again, Russia did not have I don't think they had the balls at that point to do anything about it. And I think that just those countries, those governments, they don't like Russia because of the Soviet Union and so on and so forth. I'm not an idiot. But when it comes to Ukraine, I think Ukraine is very sensitive to both Russians and Ukrainians, obviously, because Russia sees Ukraine as like their people and their front yard or backyard because Russian civilization began from there and Putin did not want NATO to expand eastward. And we have an agreement in the 1990s. There was an agreement. If you want, I could Google it. If I'm wrong, I'm
Yeah,
yeah.
Budapest Memorandum. Oh, can I ask you? Do you think it was justified for Russia to invade Ukraine?
I think it was justified to protect their people. However, killing civilians, whether Ukrainians or Russians, doing it, I'm against killing civilians, period. And I think there needs to be a peaceful solution. And the US is not innocent. The US took Ukraine for a ride. And instead of trying to make peace with Russia, the Ukraine decided to be the proxy of the US. And we're seeing the results of that.
So,
I think
do you condemn like the Kremlin state of like Russia, like and Putin?
if they killed civilians and violated international law, yes. And
If
yes. Yeah.
okay,
Sir,
they have the ICC and ICJ have both indicated that and set out like arrest warrants for Putin.
I ask you a question, sir. You're smart, right? You're a
Hmm.
smart individual.
Well, I mean, I have
If
plenty of other things we could address as well, but go for it.
if you were the president of Russia and NATO keeps expanding eastward, what would you do as Russia? Doesn't Russia have the right to defend itself? Like for like
I don't think
I
they're defending themselves by invading Ukraine.
The whole Ukraine thing
yes.
because of America. Okay, so tie it back to America. Don't
Okay.
you always say that it was irresponsible for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden to tell Ukraine that they could join NATO because
Yes.
they knew that it
It's
was
not
going
gonna
to
happen.
that it was going to trigger a
They,
war.
they were just dangling it in front of them.
Right.
They were just
So Parker,
dangling
don't
it.
you think that it was
Wait,
irresponsible?
wait.
At least it was irresponsible.
said-
استنى علي.
Okay.
Don't you think it was irresponsible for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden to tell
Come on.
Ukraine that they would be able to join NATO,
They
knowing
didn't do that. That was a lie.
they didn't
They
do
didn't do
that.
that. Can you give me a single source they did that? I've looked this up plenty of times. I've heard this from plenty of people. Charlie Kirk even said this to me. It's a total lie. I haven't seen any evidence to indicate that.
Sir. So why is Zelensky he keeps asking to join NATO and they keep dangling it, and now Trump he reversed it.
Wait. Now, is it Kamala Harris and Joe Biden claiming that Ukraine can join NATO, or is it Zelensky now that Russia has invaded Ukraine and now they want to establish like a way that Russia won't invade the rest of Ukraine, or establish like a meaningful solution to that, right? That will actually bring peace. Would be joining NATO. You cannot ensure that Russia will not invade the rest of Ukraine if you do not have Ukraine join NATO. I'm serious.
Okay,
Give me any other alternative.
there is a alternative. What you do is, now again, you could disagree. This is just how I would solve it. Me as a Palestinian Muslim, I would say, okay, Russia, because to be fair, we have to be realistic. Ukraine, whatever is left of Ukraine, you leave it alone. You send peacekeepers. If he doesn't want America to be in there, that's fine. You could put peacekeepers in the middle. That so the rest of Ukraine cannot be invaded, and basically Russia must compensate, and Ukraine must compensate
Who's
for the
peacekeepers?
damage.
Wait, who are the peacekeepers?
The Europeans, maybe.
So
Not
NATO.
NATO.
So
Not
NATO.
NATO.
Wait,
No,
wait,
no, no, not
wait.
NATO.
So European. Wait, what European countries that are not a part of
France,
NATO?
Germany,
Those are-
United.
NATO
those are
countries?
NATO
NATO
But not
countries?
under the umbrella of NATO.
Well,
because
I
if
just
you
want to
put
let I just want to
NATO-
let you know how NATO works, right? If one of the NATO countries are attacked,
Article
being
5,
any
yes.
of those
Article 5.
peacekeepers, the entirety of NATO would be affiliated. So what you're arguing is that NATO should be so that Ukraine should join
The
NATO.
United Nations, fine. Let's make it more. United Nations should be there. Peacekeeping force, just like you have in North Korea, South Korea, and how you have in you have keepers that are not part of NATO. The reason why, okay, this is what Russia is saying, right? You could believe or not believe it. They're saying that they don't want NATO on their doorstep. So we have to have a solution like United Nations peacekeepers or non-NATO forces on the border. Because if you put NATO forces there, that's grounds for disaster. And I don't want World War
So
III.
zero NATO troops.
Well, sir, do you want World War III? Do you want us to die? I mean, we have to cut our losses here.
Wait. So then essentially what you're arguing is that we should give up Ukraine to Russia.
No!
No,
You put
because
peacekeepers-
cut your losses. What do you mean?
What I mean
How
is,
do
both sides have to be realistic. You can't go, for example, Zelensky cannot go to any president, whether it's Trump or whatever.
And I have a question. If Russia attacks any of those keeping forces, what do we do?
You put pressure, you send troops, you threaten them. You say, listen,
You
if
send
do
troops,
that-
so NATO?
I mean, I don't want to send NATO in there.
Wait, are you saying the enforcement mechanism of the UN is NATO?
Most of the American people don't want World War III. Do you want us to die? Do you want us to
No.
go into World War III?
I don't think that we're going to go into World War III off the basis of this.
That's the
You have to
point.
listen.
You'll do it.
Listen. My alternative here isn't even saying that there would have to be Ukraine to join NATO. The only reason Ukraine would have to join NATO is because Donald Trump isn't offering for the United States to continue helping Ukraine defend themselves from Russia.
Because most of the American people don't want it. We spend so much money on Ukraine. How about
I
the people at
understand.
home? We need healthcare.
Wait,
We need money.
why aren't we cutting the defense budget then? Why aren't we
Let's
cutting
cut
anything
it.
else? Because listen, what you're
Let's cut
referencing.
it. I agree with you. Let's cut it.
But listen, you're referencing 1/32 of the overall military spending from the Biden-Harris administration. That's literally 3%. Okay, I don't know why we're
That's not
hyperfixating on 3%.
I think we should cut more of the defense spending.
Okay, well, I
We
totally
spend
agree.
too
Donald
much.
Trump's not advocating for that. Who actually was going
Wait,
to
wait,
do?
is the
Wait, who was?
Pentagon
Let's
included
think
in
about it
that?
this way. Who was going to have less?
Pentagon hasn't passed an audit for the last 2 years.
Hold up. Who is going to have less debt-related spending so that we'd have more money to put towards helping American citizens? Well, that's going to be Kamala Harris comparative to Donald Trump. The Committee for Responsible Federal Budget indicated that she added $4 trillion less in the first administration, or I mean Biden-Harris versus Trump, and then for her next administration for the campaign plans would have done $4 trillion less over the next 10 years, according to the campaign plans for the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget. So if you actually cared about waste spending, getting rid of the waste spending so that we could actually meaningfully address things to help American citizens, that would have been voting for Kamala Harris, but you didn't do that.
I have a question for you, sir.
Go ahead.
Again, we have to go back to why I voted for Trump. Kamala did not care about the people
Kamala.
of Palestine, the people of Gaza. She's told us to shut our mouth. She told the Arab American community to shut our mouth. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when it comes to the economy.
Wait, we already addressed that. Wait, do you think that Donald Trump is better for Palestine?
I mean, again, what he said, his ideas are ridiculous, but there was a ceasefire in place, at least.
No, can I have an answer to my specific question?
Yes, ask me, sir.
Do you think that Donald Trump is better for Palestinians?
I think he's more pro-Israel, to be honest with you.
Okay, so then he's worse
But
for Palestinians? Is that your
people-
argument?
I mean, both are pro-Israel, sir. If you
Wait,
want
so
American-
then obviously you'd prefer the one that's less pro-Israel, right?
I prefer the one that is honest. That Kamala was more
Honest?
pro-Israel.
Okay, the fact that you lie to yourself and say that Donald Trump is honest is laughable in of itself. Okay? Don't tell me he's honest. Don't tell me. Don't sit here and act to me. An act. That is a total act you're putting on,
We
saying
got
that
a
he's honest.
ceasefire before Trump got into
30,000
office.
confirmed
Am I right
lies
or
under his
wrong?
first administration.
Am I-
30,000.
Wait, sir,
Okay.
sir. Am I right?
Where's his policy to lower prices? What happened to that?
Sir, you can't lower prices in 1 month. It takes time.
He won't be able to lower
Now it
prices
takes
either way.
time
He
to- Now it
lied.
takes time to fix the
Hold
economy.
on, hold on. Oh my God. So me and my brother, we talk about these things every day, obviously, as you can hear.
And I can tell your brother's speaking facts.
I mean, but sir, we got tell me if I'm wrong. We got a ceasefire before Trump got into office.
Wait. Okay, so did Donald Trump cause that?
Steve Witkoff, sir.
Wait, what?
Who? Steve Witkoff went to the Middle East and he forced Netanyahu into the ceasefire. That I have sources for it. Times of Israel, Haaretz.
I understand. Whose particular peace deal is that?
That was Biden's idea, but who pressured?
Okay.
Who
Okay,
pressured?
wait. Why didn't
who
it happen
pressured?
earlier?
Because Biden refused to put the pressure.
No.
Yeah.
No, because Trump put pressure on Netanyahu to not accept the ceasefire.
Oh, that's also true. You're right. I did.
Okay,
I did
okay.
wait
So the reason why that deal wasn't accepted earlier is because Trump delayed the deal. Now again, that's worse for Palestinians.
Why didn't
how do
Biden
you feel?
pressure
Wait,
him?
how do you feel about Trump's AI Gaza video? Trump Gaza.
I'm pissed at that, sir. But obviously, it's not going to happen because the Palestinian people will not let it happen.
Okay.
Because
Again, I'm not understanding your point here that you would want the more pro-Israel president, right? Appreciate the hand art. Thank you so much. That you would want the guy that did the Trump Gaza video. That you would want the guy that actively out loud said that Palestinians should not have a right to return. Appreciate that mustache. And that he looks at it as real estate. He looks at Gaza as real estate. I'm
I've
serious.
heard
He
that-
said this himself.
No, but my brother's argument is he's making the comparison with Kamala Harris. The comparison with Kamala Harris is that under Kamala Harris's watch, almost 50,000 to 200,000 Palestinians have died under her watch.
And she did nothing.
And
Stop.
not only did she do nothing, but she said that she would not change anything Biden would do. So when you put my brother's argument is when you put Arab Americans in that position, you can't blame them for voting for Trump.
I'm not sitting here even blaming you. What I'm saying, I'm not blaming anyone specifically for the election loss in terms of like Arab Americans at all. What I say is the reason why Kamala Harris lost is actually like people attributing inflation to the incumbent president. If you want to look at this though, like I totally agree. Like I think that they should have done more. I don't think that they should have let that fucking happen. I think that Netanyahu should be literally held accountable for his war crimes on an international stage. I think that the U.S. should comply with international law when it comes to that because it's already established that they're war criminals. Now, again, if we do that, like the point that I'm making here is that you have to evaluate this. Who is worse for Palestinians?
Who's worse for Palestinians in what sense?
It's clearly Donald Trump in practically every sense. I don't think you could tell me a certain sense that Kamala Harris was somehow like if Donald Trump were president rather than Joe Biden. Do you think that it would have been worse or better for Palestinians?
I mean, to be honest with you, in the first term, I wasn't happy because he moved the embassy to Jerusalem and gave the Golan Heights to Israel. He's the most pro-Israel president. But the problem with the Democrats, here's the thing, right? I didn't really, to be fair, I didn't want to vote for Trump. But the thing is, that the Democrats didn't even try to win our vote. Like, for example, if they had like a Bernie Sanders type, right? And I think Democrats should learn this lesson from this election. If they came to us and said, guys, look, I know you guys don't like what Biden did or what we're doing, but we promise you in the next administration, we will hold Israel accountable. We will not let Israel do X, Y, and Z. And we will condemn what Israel is doing and we will force Israel to do the ceasefire. Because Biden, he could have told Israel to stop. He could have cut the aid money. He could have threatened to do certain things, but he did not want to do it because he was very Zionist. And how the Arab Americans, they saw it was, well, our people are getting killed. They're getting slaughtered and we're desperate for a ceasefire deal. I mean, I ask people in this chat, if your family and your people are getting bombed with white phosphorus.
You're still not answering my question. You're still not answering
What's
my
your
question.
question?
My question is who is better for Palestinians? It's clearly
None
going to
of-
be Kamala Harris, right?
None
Again,
of
I
them.
don't agree with their position at all. I'm
not-
telling you, I have a very large disagreement with their position. But you have to acknowledge they're better. Now, could they have done things that are better? Absolutely. That's what I acknowledge. I think that they absolutely should have done arms embargo fucking day one. They should have put way more pressure on Israel. I totally agree. They should have allowed for the international community to hold, right, Benjamin Netanyahu accountable for his war crimes. Absolutely. And plenty of others within the Israeli state government, right? But the point that I'm making that it needs to be addressed is that just because Democrats could have done better does not mean that they were worse, right, than Donald Trump. And the fact that you see Donald Trump as a better candidate is what I'm trying to evaluate here. Why do you think that Donald Trump here, when it comes to this particular position, is better? Because you've acknowledged he's more pro-Israel. He's explicitly said that he wants to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. He's talked about the Gaza Strip specifically as real estate development property.
I guess because the war is stopped for now and that there's the ceasefire in place for now, that ceasefire can break at any moment. I guess that's why I'm not really,
Wait, don't you already believe that Israel has broken it within plenty of senses?
Israel has broken the ceasefire. They have done it many times, but about 40 to 50,000 Palestinians are not dying right now in this case right now. But again, it could change. Every American
But Donald Trump explicitly said he doesn't want a right to return for Palestinians. He wants to ethnically cleanse all Palestinians
yeah, I'm
to
against that.
Egypt and
I heard
Jordan.
that.
I
And
understand, but that's the effect of what he's going to do. So once he does it, will you then argue that he's worse?
I don't want that to happen, but he is the worst.
If it happens,
He
if
is
it
the,
happens,
yes, he's
so
the
you'll
worst.
say so
Yes.
he'll be worse than Kamala Harris.
Yes,
Kamala,
he
yeah.
will be worse than Kamala. If he does it, he'll be worse
Okay.
than
Well, then that's my point. Is that then we're only able to evaluate it once it happened, and I don't think that's a good method of analysis, right? You shouldn't only analyze it once it happens if you know it's a very likelihood that it's going to be significantly worse. It was way more likely that it was going to be significantly worse for Donald Trump being elected, and this was known, right, for a huge portion of the election, right? So obviously he made this very clear. He made this very clear that he was going to do this,
I have a
right?
question for you, sir, if you don't mind. Do the Democrats have to work harder? Because, for
Yes.
example, I didn't want to vote for Trump, sir, but don't put me in a position. You have to try to win our vote. For example, take out Kamala and Biden for a second. Let's say person A.
Hold, I do just want to say something. One thing. Her name is Kamala Harris. Secondly,
Kamala Harris.
I do just want to recognize. I absolutely agree. Democrats should have done better. Right. I'm not disputing you there. Right. I'm pro-Palestinian. I think they absolutely should have done better. I don't want to. I don't want a pro-Israel candidate. That's why I think right now we need to stay in politics so that we can get a person in the primaries for the next set of administration who is pro-Palestinian. Right. Someone like AOC, who is pro-Palestinian. That would be
I
a
mean,
significantly better alternative. And you would agree with someone like AOC. You would vote for someone like AOC. That's what we need to put our time into right now. Again, I understand that you have that disagreement with me. I want to talk about this further and we can go through that. But right now, at the
yes.
moment, let's support someone who's on the Democratic side who actually does, right, have, right, literally empathy for Palestinians, right? Unlike literally 95%, right, of the playing field of Republicans.
I agree with your point on that, but we need fighters. So, for example, right, we need Democrats to fight for better paying jobs, adjusting the cost of living. For example, in New York, we have someone running. His name is Zohran Mamdani. He's running on to raise the minimum wage at $30 an hour. He's pro Palestine, and we need just Democrats that are willing to fight because Trump. One of his methods is that he positions himself as a fighter.
But why do you believe him? In which case you believe
I'm
him.
using him as
You believe him.
his methodology.
Okay, but he just
His
explained to you
methodology.
that so you're literally admitting that he's lying, but you're still believing in him. But because he's saying that he's gonna fight for you, you're gonna vote for him. But you know he's lying to you. You know he's lying to you.
Okay, sir. Also, the Democrats lie to me too, to my face. All I'm saying, sir, is that we need
Who
fighters.
lies more? Who lies significantly more?
I mean, both are liars, but Trump, I think.
It's obviously significantly more. Okay, now, not only addressing that, let's reference like policies here on the ground. Do you know what
Yes.
Donald Trump's healthcare plan was?
To be honest with you, I never heard his healthcare plan.
What about his childcare plan?
I didn't hear anything about his child.
What about his housing affordability plan?
He just said he wants to build more cities, but nothing more in depth than that.
What about his plan to lower prices?
He said he wanted to lower prices, but he didn't tell us how. He just said he wants to drill for oil, and that will
Okay,
balance
so
everything.
those are main policy positions. Now let's reference Kamala Harris. What was her healthcare policy? Expand access to the ACA cap, right? The amount that you would have to pay for pharmaceutical drugs to $2,000 per year, right? She also wanted to get rid of the effective medical debt on your credit, right? $35 cap on insulin for everyone, not just people on Medicare, which is what she extended through the Inflation Reduction Act, right? That was a healthcare plan. Child care plan, increasing a child tax credit, $6,000 for the first year of a child's life, 3,600 through them being 5 years old, 3,000 through them being 18. When implemented through the American Rescue Plan in 2021, reduced childhood poverty by 40 to 50%, right? Housing affordability plan, $25,000 tax credit for first-time homebuyers for new homes, right? Which would increase the amount of homes developed in this country and actually increase the supply of already developed houses, therefore lowering the price for already developed homes for people to buy.
These are good policies that you're saying. This is what you should have ran on because I didn't hear this.
It is
during
what
the
it.
debates.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. It is what she ran on, and she did bring these up at the debates.
But she kept flip flopping.
No,
I
she
couldn't.
didn't.
Like when it comes to fracking, am I right or wrong?
With fracking, you're referencing clips from 5 years ago, right? Where she specifically now has clarified her position, where she said that she's willing to compromise on fracking so that they can get other types of climate policy. That's what the Inflation Reduction Act did. I understand that she then supported policies that had fracking in it, but that's compromise. That's how the government works.
Okay, understood. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so then my question to you is What is your analysis? Why did most people vote for Trump then? Because not all 50 million, because the problem with some people, they're like, oh my God, the other half of the country is racist. That's why they voted for Trump.
And I have to be honest with you, Parker. The issue with people like you and Dean isn't the thing is like you guys always have the framing, why do you support Trump? The problem with this election wasn't necessarily that people supported Trump, it was that people would rather have had Trump in the Oval Office rather than the incumbency, which is the Joe Bidens and the Kamala Harrises. That is the problem that we're having in America right now, and those are the people you have to answer to, not necessarily the diehard MAGAs, because there isn't as many diehard MAGAs as there are people out there that are just like, shit, I have nothing to choose between. So, but the problem is the people that are saying they have nothing to choose between are wrong. That's what the issue is.
Okay, so well, one, her name is Kamala Harris. I just want to clarify that again. But like, I do think that racism and misogyny is a huge portion of the reason why people didn't take Kamala Harris as serious, or the whole like argument of DEI, right, or that she's not qualified was even true, because she had significantly more qualifications than Donald Trump, right? And obviously, I think that like given her same qualifications to be true for someone like Joe Biden or any other white guy, right, people would have taken her significantly more serious within that respect because of racism and misogyny existing. But a huge portion of the reason why Democrats lost is because people attributed inflation to the incumbent president. Okay, people just said because inflation happened under the Biden-Harris administration that they blamed the Biden-Harris administration for it. That is the main reason. If you look at exit polls, the main reasoning. Immigration is also a byproduct of that, because there's there's actually more people coming to the country because of like economic insecurity that exists around the world because of global inflation. So if people understood correlation, causation fallacy, statistics, things like that, right, people would have voted for Kamala Harris, right? So it is a huge portion that Donald Trump hyperfixated on uninformed voters that were not paying attention to those particular types of indicators, and he exploited that type of messaging. So I understand that you're saying for a lot of people it was that Donald Trump is just better than Kamala Harris, but the idea and the thing I have to address is that when I'm arguing against MAGA, I am showing that it's not better. So I am arguing against those people when I argue against people who are like directly MAGA, right? And if I were arguing against people who are not as MAGA, which I do argue against as well, right, that's still not necessarily addressing the concerns that show whether or not MAGA is worse or better than the other side. Because again, I'm still going to be addressing the same phenomena, the same thing, because they're stuck on that same sort of sort of issue.
So, sir, here's my question: if you were a Democrat strategist right now and you're in the room, what would you tell the politicians that are running in the midterms? Because the midterms are 2026. How would you tell, for example, the mayors, the governors, and the Congress people that are running in next time around? Should they run their campaign? What issues should they run on? So, for example, people to care about the money. Show me the money. Better jobs, better standards of living. Should they run on that? Should they run on cutting aid to all countries, including Israel and Ukraine, for most Americans? Because Americans, they want to live a better life. If that means you have to cut spending in the military, so be it. So what do you think? If you were
I think that's a propaganda message that like the federal funds that we're sending to countries around the world is like a huge portion of the budget. Of course, I don't want Israel to have any of the money. Like, of course, I would not want to give money to Israel. But saying that like the money going to Ukraine is like some huge portion of the budget that's going to revitalize the entire economy, I think is a ridiculous statement. Especially when again Kamala Harris would have done 4 trillion less than Trump, especially because he wants to do massive tax cuts for the rich and wealthy, right? So again, in terms of the policies, right, that I would want like Democrats particularly to run on, obviously I'd want them to adjust their positions, right, particularly on Israel and Palestine. Push the head mustache, of course, that would be like an amazing thing. I want them to run on like healthcare, right, for people, like things like a public option. Obviously, that's something that I would want. I would like them to run on like workers' rights, union membership. I'd like them to run on access to housing, right, making sure everyone right is housed, right. I think that's an important thing to run on. I think it's important to run on like the fact that Donald Trump, right, is like a part of like the corrupt corporate establishment and makes everything worse about the establishment that we think is bad. When you think establishment, right, when we're talking about someone like Bernie Sanders bringing up the establishment, we're talking about people that uphold corporate interests. Donald Trump upholds corporate interests to a greater degree than any other candidate we'd be able to reference. Appreciate that, Handhart. So everything about the establishment is what he beholds, right? So we need to be clear that Republicans have corporate interests, not interests of the American people.
But don't Democrats also have to be, because both parties, let's be honest, both parties have what you call lobbyists behind them.
Sanali, can you name another presidential candidate that in
Yes.
their inauguration, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk showed up to it?
Didn't they go to Biden and Obama's inauguration also?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they would go to essentially everyone. They do that with every presidential candidate.
He even agreed with it. So
Okay, but now what you need to explain to him too is he's a Palestinian American, and he hates the influx of immigrants in this country. So that is
Illegal
also,
immigration.
no,
There's
no,
a
no, 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 no.
difference.
Okay, okay, for
What,
explain
can I
to
ask about this? We'll ask about your asylum. Do you think that Palestinians should be able to seek asylum in the United States?
If they come through the front door, yes. Meaning, if they come through the front door, meaning let's say they enter through Mexico or Canada, and they say, I want asylum, and they look through the case, and the case is valid, yes, they should get asylum.
Wait, if the case is valid,
Yes, if it's valid. So, for example,
you don't think a Palestinian seeking asylum, you don't think a Palestinian
it's valid.
from Palestine is who's seeking
Yes, I
asylum
mean,
it has a valid claim?
it has a valid claim, but every claim has to go through a process, correct?
Well,
In other words,
what process do you think a Palestinian should have to go through in order to seek asylum?
I mean, they have to go through court. They have to show proof that they're being oppressed, which we are being oppressed, and that's it.
I have a question. Should they do that process in Mexico or in the United States?
You got me there. I think it should be in the United States.
Yeah, and who's going to set that process up to happen in Mexico?
Trump is setting it up, I think, right now.
Yeah,
It's
so like here's my big issue. If you care about like the asylum process being good, if you care about legal immigration being faster, to actually support people through legal immigration, to incentivize them to go through the legal immigration process, Democrats have better policy for all of these things, right? And again, I don't think that they have perfect policies, and I think that oftentimes they even placated to the right too much on immigration, right? But that doesn't change the idea that they are significantly better when it comes to immigration policy. And I can point to specific examples how they supported specific policies that were better for immigration, that made it faster for people and made the asylum process go faster in the United States, making it so that people are incentivized to go into the United States, right? Only if they have a legal asylum claim, because if they didn't, they would just likely get they would likely get rejected pretty quickly
But I
because
have
the
a question
process
for
goes
you.
faster.
I have a question for you. If we go to any country, like let's say, for example, you're going to, I don't know, France, Germany, whatever, you have to get a visa, correct? So you could go to that country legally. So we have to respect each country's borders. You can't just, people can't just come into this country illegally, right? They have to go through, like, I believe, like you said, a process. Like, for example,
So
if Americans,
I'll give you an example, right? I think that we would only say that it's justified, right? I only think we would say it's unjustified to like break a law, right? If we think that the law is justified in itself. You don't think the immigration law is justified, well, then why would you say it's immoral just because they broke the law? Like
no, but
that
I'm saying
doesn't
in general.
that
I'm
doesn't
saying
make
in
any sense.
general, when you go to, like, for example, Americans can't go to Mexico illegally. They have to get a visa. They have to go through a process.
Yeah,
And I can't
but
go.
I understand that other countries have processes. That doesn't mean I agree with any of their processes.
But should borders be respected? For example, you just earlier we brought up how you're angry that Russia's invading Ukraine, and that they're violating Ukrainian sovereignty. Some of these illegal immigrants that are coming across our border, we don't know who they are. Some of them. Some of them. I'm not saying all
So
of
then
them.
here's my point. If they're
Yes.
undocumented in the country, give them a pathway to citizenship. If they
If they
have
pay
committed
taxes,
violent
why not?
crimes, if they have committed violent crimes, right? Well, then
Yep.
you send them back to the country that they came from, given that they've committed violent crimes, only if they are going to put that person in prison. Because otherwise, not only would you like literally let someone who's a violent criminal out free in a country, right? But also, right, it would be the case that they could try to come back to the United States, and you wouldn't want that to happen.
I
So,
have another question for you.
antimatter, thank you for $10. Thank
Parker,
you.
Parker, only because you brought it up. Can you fact check him on the story of with the Venezuelan migrants in Colorado, or I forgot which state it was,
Colorado.
that
They attacked. They took over buildings.
yeah, that they said that the Venezuelan gang members were taking over the buildings, and that's why they were sending ICE over there.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you. I got you. So I have an NPR article right here that says the Aurora police chief says there's no evidence that a Venezuelan gang took over an apartment. That's just from
Well,
NPR.
I mean, NPR there to the left, but in general, we saw videos in general
Okay,
of,
it's the
of
Aurora
Wait,
Police
you think
Department.
NPR's to the
Aurora
left?
Police Department.
oh, Aurora Police
Yeah,
Department.
wait. Okay, I'll give you AP News as well.
Okay, AP is neutral, so I guess we could take that.
Yeah, I mean, I think NPR is neutral too, but like, yeah. Police deny Venezuelan gang has taken over a rundown apartment complex in Denver suburb.
Okay, so I have a question for you in general. It's a general question. Should we take care of Americans before we take care of the migrants? Because people in New York, especially, we had a program for migrants that were coming in. They were getting food stamps, they were getting money and stuff like that. Many New Yorkers were pissed about that because we have homeless New Yorkers and they weren't being taken care of first, and people were pissed. So, do you think in general that America should take care of Americans first? And what I mean by Americans, I don't mean just white people. I mean Americans that are Arab, Hispanic, Black, whatever. Take care of them first, then we move on to the migrants, because it's like, for example, me having kids, for instance, my own kids. I'm not feeding them, but I'm feeding the neighbor's kids. So what do you think? I want your opinion.
Yeah, I got you. So, there's a few things I have here with this. I think we could walk and chew gum at the same time. I think this is the legal asylum process. So I can give you a particular hypothetical, right? If you had a Palestinian, right, who is specifically seeking asylum in the United States, they're waiting in the U.S. while their asylum claim is processed, right? Do you think that they should be able to get access to these state policies within the context of New York?
I think they should be able to work and provide for themselves
And
as long as they
should
pay
they be able
taxes.
to get access to these particular policies like other Americans already do?
As long as they pay taxes and they have a job, why not?
They
Of
would
course.
be asylum seekers
Okay.
do that. Okay, so then you agree with that policy. By the way, I just want to also say that's state policy, right? You're referencing New York state policy. You're not referencing, right, like the federal policy from like the Biden Harris administration.
Yes. Okay, but my general
And
question.
also like I don't know why we're othering asylum seekers, like as if they wouldn't be U.S. citizens or at least designated to be treated that way.
I mean, when there's a process for them to become citizens, but not citizens yet when they enter the country. But my question is,
Hold it before you do. Any treatment that you give to an asylum seeker will actively affect people that you think should legally be in this country as citizens because they will be processed their claims, right, as legitimate. So any treatment that you designate, even to asylum seekers in which have invalid claims, would also then be applicable to those that have valid claims. So you're treating U.S. citizens, right, in a manner in which does not respect their rights. And I think that's bad.
okay, wait, I'm confused.
شو قصدك؟ Wait, but how
Yeah.
would that affect U.S. citizens? You mean U.S. citizens that look Hispanic or that look
No.
like?
People who are going through the asylum process and they have valid claims. If you treat all asylum seekers as like, oh, they can't get social policies, well, then you're treating those legal asylum seekers who do have
Yeah,
valid claims,
exactly.
right?
Also,
Like they
sets a
do not
precedent.
have rights as other U.S. citizens. Question, because actually one of the first things you brought up, because I wrote all this down. Good thing I'm
Yes,
taking notes now. You wrote up like the economy, okay?
yes.
So
The
can you
card is very
please
important to
can
me.
you give me one economic policy that Donald Trump influenced to get passed that is better than what the Democrats were offering?
Okay, he said he was going to reduce inflation by drilling more oil, but other than that, I don't know any policies.
Okay. So he's not going to reduce inflation by drilling for oil. The Biden Harris administration already had the largest level of domestic production of oil of any country for the time ever. And they also did renewable energy policy. When Donald Trump like does not fund renewable energy policy, he doesn't have a multifaceted approach at like energy policy, which would then mean since there are less substitutes for oil, that there would be less pressure downward on the price.
What do you think about tariffs? Because my
They're
brother
going to
was
cause the
explaining
price
to
to
me.
go up. So like
Yeah.
for oil, there's even tariffs on oil, right, and energy, right, that Donald Trump is going to impose that he wants to on Canada, and that's if it is the case that it's not renegotiation. So the real question is it to increase domestic production or is it renegotiation? Because if it's increased domestic production, well, then you have to have it in place to do so. And if it's renegotiation, well, then countries around the world are just going to realize that it's renegotiation and that he's not actually going to implement it. And then whenever he puts the threat in place, they're going to call the bluff.
So do you think so far the bluff has been working? I mean, with Mexico, for instance, it
No.
worked in a sense. No,
What did we get?
because Mexico sent 10,000 troops on the border, and they're doing
Didn't
what
we
he
get? Didn't
said.
we get more under Biden?
Border patrol on the border of Mexicans. I don't know.
We got
I didn't hear
more.
that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got more like military members right under Biden.
No, but I'm saying Mexico.
I think it was 15K.
That Mexico had to take care of the border, not let anyone inside. That was, I guess, the deal. But also
So then what are you saying we got extra with the threat of tariffs?
10,000. So with Mexico, they sent 10,000 troops to the border. That's what
We
was
had
claimed.
15 before.
15,000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then it was more under Biden then.
Yeah,
So
without the threat of tariffs?
So yeah, I guess. So my question is, don't you think that we need more manufacturing jobs in this country? I mean, no president has brought up any ideas to
Is
bring
it
back.
so then you're saying the tariffs are not renegotiation and it is to bring back domestic production?
I mean, I think the tariffs aren't helping us that much at this point. I think
Okay.
we
Okay, so then they're not going to bring back domestic production. So
not
then the
looking
only
like it.
person who's actually bringing back domestic production is the Biden Harris administration with the Chips and Science Act.
They brought back chip manufacturing to the U.S. from Taiwan because most of the stuff we get from the U.S. is from China, from Mexico, from with NAFTA and all these agreements. And I think the Midwest has
It's
suffered.
not just Taiwan, but yeah, Taiwan is a huge and major chip production
They're up
like
there.
aspects. like the huge basis of our chip production. Yeah.
But what about other stuff like making cars, making stuff back in the U.S., food? Because most of our parts and stuff come from Mexico and Canada and other countries because of the
And
cheap.
are we gonna tariff those?
I don't want to. If it's gonna affect my pocket, hell no.
Well, that is going to affect your pocket.
I mean, you made me a little bit more awake now, man. But I just wish that in the midterms, the Democrats actually try this time because I might. This is my opinion. I know me and you would disagree, but I think they weren't trying hard enough.
I mean,
This
I no, I agree they weren't trying hard enough, right? I don't
they need
dispute
to.
that, but like, um, I think saying that Democrats aren't trying hard enough is almost insane if you don't recognize that Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying even less by like a huge fucking margin. So like, we have to acknowledge that. Okay, like I can critique the Democratic Party. I have my critiques of the Democratic Party, but Jesus Christ, we've got to critique the Republicans, right? If we're
I
critiquing
agree.
the
Why
Democrats.
not? If they do something wrong, hold them to account.
It seems like now your position is changing, but prior, it seems like you did hold them accountable less.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was emotionally charged to vote for Trump because of the Gaza war. I wasn't really thinking much about the other stuff. But now that we see what's going on, I don't know. The next 4 years is gonna be a bumpy ride.
All right, well, I appreciate you coming up. Appreciate you
Thank you.
coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank
Yo,
you.
thank you so much, Parker. I appreciate you. This was supposed to be Dean's job, but you took
I
his
got you. I got you. Don't worry.